Hi and welcome to the short tutorial in regards to the border with the European Union and further enhancements in Opera 3. This short tutorial will provide additional information to the changes that Pegasus are making in Opera 3 to assist customers in conforming to the new Brexit rules and requirements as from the 1st of January 2021. My name is Anthony Angel and I am a training and consultancy specialist here at Pegasus Software. So the first topic of conversation is the Economic Operators Registration Identification Number, or what I call the EORI number. Now a company needs the EORI number to move goods between the UK and non-EU countries. However, from the 1st of January 2021, companies will need an EORI number to move goods between Great Britain, and that is considered England, Scotland and Wales for the legislation here, and the EU. Also, companies might need an EORI number to move goods to or from Northern Ireland. Now, if a company is moving goods between Great Britain and the EU, or Northern Ireland, then they must apply for an EORI number. You can use the link that's been provided in the great documents that have been sent out by the marketing team. This should be applied for as soon as possible, as it can take 5 working days for it to be issued. Now, if a company does not have an EORI number, then they may have increased costs and delays. So for example, HM Revenue and Customs, if they can't clear the goods, then the company may have to pay storage fees in order to keep them there until they can be cleared. Now, following some recent clarification from HMRC, in Opera 3 version 28050, the company profiles form will have the ability to now store up to 3 EORI numbers, and these are for the first main EORI number, which is the GB EORI number. Then there is a field for the second EORI number that can be used for a Northern Ireland specific EORI number for traders located in Northern Ireland. The third EORI number can be used for a trader that performs declarations within other EC countries. HMRC have said that current EU policy advises that a trader does not need an individual EU EORI number for each member state. Once an EU EORI number has been issued from any member state, it can be used across the whole of the EU, and a person can only hold one EU EORI, and that is issued under the Union Customs Code, the UCC authorization. Now, EORI numbers are also stored in the sales processing form for each customer in the EC VAT form, and similarly, EORI numbers are stored on the purchase processing form for each supplier in the EC VAT form as well. Now, of course, if you do not have the EC VAT application activated, then the EORI number is stored on the VAT form that's launched in the sales and purchase processing respectively. Furthermore, there are 2 additional spare fields that have been added to the EC VAT form, or the VAT form on the customer supplier, and the options form on the stock records, and this is to store additional information. The customer and partner can, for example, then add the EORI numbers in these spare fields to various reports and documentation produced by Opera 3, such as a delivery and invoice stationery. Let's move on to the next topic, EC Intrastat Reports. Now, from the 1st of January 2021, GB businesses, i.e. again, just to remind you that's England, Scotland, Wales in this case, will still have to produce an EC Intrastat report, and that's known as the SD, Statistical Declaration Report within Opera 3. However, the SD report must then only consist of imports, otherwise known as arrivals, into GB. Therefore, GB businesses must no longer include dispatches on their SD report from the 1st of January 2021. However, for businesses located in Northern Ireland, they must still provide both arrivals and dispatches on their SD reports. Now, the Opera 3 company profiles form already has an EC Dispatches SD option, which, deselected, prevents dispatches from being included on the SD report. However, when this option is deselected, the user can no longer capture or input associated EC export details when posting sales transactions in a sales ledger or SOP. For example, the commodity code and net mass details will be required on export documentation from the 1st of January 2021, but they cannot be entered if this option is deselected. Therefore, a new option has been added to company profiles labeled Include Dispatches on SD Report. Once deselected, then this will exclude dispatches from the SD report, but still retain the ability to capture these EC details such as the commodity codes, etc. The SD report does not currently have dispatches or arrivals filtering options. These will be added. The original SD report didn't have dispatches or arrival filtering options. However, with the new enhancements within Opera 3 28050, there will be the options to filter between dispatches and arrivals if required. Now, the selection options will be dispatches, arrivals, or both. Let's move on to the next topic, Let's discuss the VAT return, and as a result of the Brexit changes applicable from the 1st of January 2021, and specifically those related to the Northern Ireland Protocol, the description of boxes 2, 8 and 9 on the UK VAT return in general will change. Now, all associated references within Opera 3, and what we mean by that is text on VAT-related processing forms, reports and so on, will be changed. But the changes will only apply from the 1st of January 2021 onwards. And these changes do in fact apply to the VAT return UK-wide. So we're not talking about just the VAT return within Northern Ireland. Where the to date of the VAT period currently selected for the display in the MTD VAT Centre is less than the 1st of the 1st 2021, then the VAT box's text will remain unchanged. Otherwise, the VAT box text for boxes 2, 8 and 9 will change such that the text NI Protocol, as in Northern Ireland Protocol, will be appended to the box descriptions. Let's move on to some other changes added in Opera 3 version 280.50. There are a number of other changes that have been added into this release to support the requirements of the Brexit version of Opera 3. These can be summarised as follows. Firstly, in stock processing, a new gross weight field will be added to the Opera 3 stock processing form under the options section. Now, this gross weight figure could be printed on associated stock related documents such as a delivery note, and this gross weight field will be included in stock reports such as the stock record sheet. Now, there are 2 additional spare fields that have been added to the options form on the stock records, and this is to store additional information. Again, these can be included on stock-related documents produced by the system. There's also an enhancement in regards to providing an additional delivery note design. Now, a new delivery note report design has been added into Opera 3, and this is whereby the delivery note will in fact be an example of a commercial invoice being created in place of, or in addition to, a standard delivery note. Now, this new delivery note is to provide partners with a base design from which they can produce a custom commercial invoice for their customers. The actual customer design is likely to be specific to each customer's requirements. A delivery note is likely to be produced or provided before the customer is actually invoiced, and that is why we have created this new design. If the customer is not using the delivery process, then the same concept can be applied to the sales order design. And this new design will include the company EORI number, the customer EORI number and detail line commodity codes, and net mass, country of origin, new gross weight fields, and so on. And for those that wish to include a number of pallets on that document, then they could simply add a description only item. Now let's move on to recommendations. Now, the changes made in Opera 3 to adhere to the new Brexit rules means that there are certain prerequisites and suggestions that customers should consider. Let's go through them. Firstly, the EC VAT application. Now, for customers who import and export from and to the European Union, they will need to store additional information and produce new reports, as discussed in the series of documents that were sent out by the marketing team. Please remember to take a look at them. They provide some excellent information for you to start preparing for the Brexit changes. Now, EU-specific information such as commodity codes, country codes and so on are stored within the EC VAT section of the customer and supplier records. Now, commodity codes are created within the EC VAT application and recorded against stock records and are used on sales documentation such as delivery notes and commercial invoices. The EC VAT application therefore becomes a prerequisite for most customers that are importing and exporting to the EU from the 1st of January 2021. Now, when it comes to implementation, UK companies that export to the EU should have Opera 3 version 280.50 installed and configured, ideally before the 1st of January 2021. This is because they will need to produce delivery documentation that will be essentially the commercial invoice, detailing the company EORI number, customer EORI number, stock details including commodity codes, and so on. Now, this requires the documentation to be created, the commodity code to be created and assigned to the stock records, with the relevant EORI numbers gathered and recorded, and so on. This will require both the customer and the partner to have sufficient time to create and record this information. Now, UK companies that import from the EU and implement postponed VAT accounting, then they will have the option to defer the customs duty and import VAT until the 15th day of the following month, in which case there is additional time to implement this version of Opera 3. If a customer does not have enough time to implement Opera version 280.50, then the earlier version of 280 has much of this information recorded, in which case it will be prudent to consider what processes need to have manual intervention applied to allow the import and export process to continue. For instance, while the company has the EORI number stored in the company profile form, their customers' individual EORI numbers are not stored. So how is that to be produced on the documentation that will be used by, for example, the freight forwarders? Are there any unused fields on the customer record that could be used to store this information? And if not, then could description-only stock records be used to print this information? Could you use labels on a layout? Similarly, if the gross weight of the items being delivered and the number of pallets and so on is not available, then again, can this be provided on the documentation via the use of description-only stock records? Now, this could be used as an interim solution prior to the installation of Opera 3 version 28050. But these are the key considerations for whether you would need the Easy VAT application and whether you would need to upgrade to Opera 3 version 28050. Please make sure that you do review all this information because each customer will be different and their requirements and their needs will obviously be to what's required. So let's have a look where those enhancements can be seen. So the first couple of enhancements were found under the company profile. So if I go into administration, let's go to maintenance and into company profiles. And there you can see the phase 2 enhancements already. The second EORI and third EORI numbers on the front screen of the company profiles. However, while we're in the company profiles, let's go on to the options tab, and there is a new option there that says include dispatches on SD report, and that was the new option that was mentioned earlier. Now, of course, there are other changes to some of the other processing and respective VAT forms. So if we go into financials and we go into sales processing, because I've got the EC VAT module activated, obviously I've got the EC VAT form options, and if we click on there, and then we can see there's the field for the EORI number as well as the 2 extra fields as mentioned previously. And of course, while we've got these on the sales processing form, if I go into the purchase ledger and go into the same EC VAT form there, so EC VAT, there's the respective supplier's EORI number field and the 2 extra fields as mentioned before. Now, of course, we're talking about extra fields, and we did mention them in the presentation. So let's have a look at the stock processing form. So into stock processing, and if I go action and into the options, that's where we can now see we've got the gross weight and we've got the 2 extra fields down the bottom there. Now, there's been a whole host of changes on a number of reports, including adding the EORI number on the list of accounts. So if I just give you an example, under financials, in sales, go to reports, and we're going to go to the list of accounts option, and I'm going to click OK. And I'm just going to preview the report to screen. And as we can see there, the list of accounts now also contains the EORI number. And the same can be said on the supplier list of accounts. Now, of course, the stock record sheet will also include the gross weight field. And on the EC VAT SD audit report, it's basically adhering to the new settings. So let's do an example of that. If I go to reporting, let's go to the EC VAT, into reports. Let's go to the SD audit report as an example. There I've got a choice of dispatches, arrivals, or both. So these options were there, but the new setting will then help to determine which settings should be selected by default. Now, there are a couple of other reports that didn't have these options. For example, if I have a look at the SD report, so under reports, go to SD report, I now have these options available here as well. Where you can also see this in action is, of course, under the SD to EDI report as well. So if I go to reports, SD to EDI, and there we have it, the new options available to filter on dispatches, arrivals, or both. Now, of course, we talked about a new delivery note design, which was a sample export document, so a commercial invoice for a better phrase. Let's have a look at that option there. So if we go to supply chain management, into SOP processing, so let's go to action and delivery. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight an existing delivery, Control P on my keyboard, and from the drop down I can now see the Brexit sample export documentation. You can see the file name associated with it, sqinde-brexit.frx, and if I just highlight that, and I'm going to pop this design to the screen. Let's publish it, and you can see On the design window, we have included fields such as the commodity code, as well as the country of origin, unit weight, gross weight, and so forth. So we've taken an existing design and then modified it to give you an example documentation that you would require for perhaps the commercial invoice design that the customer requires. And as you can see, you've also got the EORI numbers and the extra fields there at the top there. Of course, you can take this design and modify it to your customer requirements. And if I just press escape to run the actual report to screen, you can see the layout there. Now, the last change to show you is all the wording changes for boxes 2, 8 and 9, as long as the date is of course in advance of the 1st of the 1st 2021. So if I just go into an example of administration, into VAT processing, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on VAT codes. Now you can currently see that you've got the boxes there. 2 mentions tax value on acquisitions bracket EC. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my processing date, and I'm going to say it's the 1st of the 1st 2021, and I'm going to go into the exact same form again, into VAT codes, and as you can see the labels have changed to ECNI protocol, and you will see that throughout the system where appropriate. So you'll also see those label changes within the MTD VAT Center, the VAT return reports, as well as the VAT return adjustment form. And that concludes the Phase 2 enhancements included in the version 2.80.50 release. Thank you for watching.